Sound check. Sound check for virtual. Anybody on virtual, please respond if you can hear us. All right. Well, welcome everybody to a second half of our morning presentation. I'd like to introduce our program here, which is Navigating Future Waters, a decade-long vision for Elkhart Lake. Our two presenters this morning are going to be Sarah and Kevin. Sarah is a wetland ecologist and enjoys working with local nonprofits, businesses, and municipalities to provide integrated solutions that protect and conserve water resources. Her project experience includes wetland delineation, biological surveys, habitat restoration, planning and design, and watershed planning. She is a professional wetland scientist and with the Society of Wetland Scientists and a Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Assured Wetland Delineator. So welcome, Sarah. Kevin fosters community development, market strategy, and emerging technology at W.S. Darley Company since 2012. He has commercialized a wide range of solutions encompassing water treatment systems, packaged water in a box, and virtual reality training and autonomous drone solutions. A native of Elkhart Lake, Kevin's passion for the environmental preservation has driven his commitment to fostering safer, natural spaces for future generations. In 2017, he joined the Elkhart Lake Improvement Association, Keep Elkhart Lake Blue, as a board member, where he is actively engaged in several water and public outreach initiatives. Kevin has initiated and manages 3 podcast channels focused on public safety and health and dedicated to disseminating the best practices and fostering a culture of progress and education. So welcome, Sarah and Kevin. Here you go.
Thank you. A lot of words for just the fact that I'm a water guy. I love water, and Sarah is a biologist and loves science. So we are kind of like frick and frack up here today. Really excited to talk about a place that's very near and dear to our heart, Elkhart Lake. And this is a photo of it. It's actually, I believe you can maybe give more context on the history of the name, but it supposedly kind of looks like an elk heart. Even on the next photo here. I mean, maybe for some of you that don't necessarily know exactly where it is, but about an hour north of Milwaukee, an hour south of Green Bay in Sheboygan County. Most people know Elkhart very well for the Road America. Has anybody been to Road America before? Anybody stayed at the Osthoff or the hotels? Yeah, the mascot of Elkhart Lake High School is the Resorters. It's a very unique town. You know, it's not the Panthers. It's not the Cougars. Not some animals. We're the Resorters. You know, calling a spade a spade. Elkhart is driven by tourism, and the lake is the foundation of tourism. Lake is the foundation of the economy, and a very important part to all things going on in Elkhart. So Elkhart Bliss, Sarah and I talk about this quite a bit, and maybe for those who have been to Elkhart, I love all Wisconsin lakes, don't get me wrong, but there's something special about Elkhart. There's this unique hue to the water. There's this unique calmness. There's this a beautiful dynamic with the clouds and just everything about it. If you've been there, you know that there's this sort of magical healing powers of Elkhart Lake. Sarah and I both love to kayak, paddleboard, fish. You know, my newfound hobbies is I wake up at 5 in the morning, 5:30, and I go out and go paddleboard fishing and just got my feet in the water and just catch bluegill, bass, walleye, and it's my favorite thing to do in the world, amongst many other things. So for those of you who've been to Elkhart, you know how truly special Elkhart is, and it's really the impetus about why we're here, the organization we support, which we'll get into, and yeah, so a little bit more about Elkhart.
Hi, everyone. I should add before I get going on this, the deep science about Elkhart Lake, is that I'm also a board member with Kevin. I forgot to put that in my intro. So we're here supporting our heart project, the Elkhart Lake. So a little bit of a background on the lake itself. It's one of the deepest lakes in Wisconsin, definitely not as deep as Green Lake that we learned about earlier in the conference, and I'm not sure where it is on the top 5. I would say top 5. maybe?
I heard third natural deepest lake in Wisconsin.
Okay, there we go. There we go. So our maximum depth, 119 feet. It's almost a 300-acre lake. You can see the bathymetry over here. We've got a real deep hole in the center of the lake, and then kind of a sandbar that separates a second basin in the middle there. We have the bottom is predominantly sand and gravel. It's a glacial lake, so it was left as a gift from the glaciers 10,000 years ago. It's spring fed, so lots of groundwater influence in Elkhart Lake. Seepage Lake, some would call it. We have standard boating ordinances, buoy placements. One of the most exciting things that I find about Elkhart is that we have limits on wake. So we have silent Sundays or no wake Sundays, which is a great time to go and enjoy your silent sports. The fishery consists of largemouth, smallmouth bass, muskie, panfish, northern pike. Trout is on the list, but that is up for debate, I believe. And walleye. DNR fisheries staff do study Elkhart Lake quite a bit. I think the last stocking was probably in 2020. So they keep a close eye on it. We do have really great water quality, but have seen an uptick in invasive species in recent years. So Eurasian water milfoil, curly leaf pondweed, water lilies, and well, zebra mussels are on that list as well, I believe. So that's our Elkhart Lake, or what's below the surface.
One thing we didn't add, just curious about the no motorboats on Sunday. I think that was something that Keep Elkhart Blue had pushed for, right? I'm not sure. Yeah, it was, but it's something that the no motorboats on Sundays is this really nice little serene thing. Do you know something about that? Yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, we wanted to touch on a little bit, and I think even what I probably should have said, and Sarah and I had done a little planning, and I think we've already kind of thrown the planning out the window, but we are both coming up here saying that we're not experts by any means. We are both active practitioners, and we love the lake. Sarah and I both have different specialties in what we do, but we're not standing here saying we know everything. We want to speak at you. We want this to continue to be interactive. I think ultimately we know Elkhart, we're doing a lot of things very well, but we also know that we need to continue to improve. So we want to touch a little bit right now on what really is going well and some of the things in the works, but then also really drive into what we need to improve on. And frankly, we're looking to get feedback from you on how can we control copy what you're doing. I was joking with Stephanie earlier. We want to continue to try and replicate and copy a lot of good stuff that Green Lake is doing. Because why reinvent the wheel if the state of Wisconsin and some of the partners are already doing some good stuff? So hoping you take a few tidbits from what we're doing, and we're open to share all ideas and practices. So what's going well? Let you take that one.
We have a lot of water quality data. We started sampling on Elkhart Lake in 1990, I believe. And that's formally through the Clean Lake or the Citizen Lake Monitoring Program with DNR. We've taken regular samples at the deepest hole, which I showed on the bathymetry map earlier. We have been looking at water quality, total phosphorus, chlorophyll A, and dissolved oxygen, which is sort of new for us to explore. As we start looking at internal loading, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But how many folks are involved in the Citizen Lake Monitoring in the room? That's great. That's awesome. Such a great and well-organized program. I can't say enough about it. Yeah, so we're trying to support this program through introducing it to the next generation. These may or may not be my family members who were forced into it, but they're smiling. They're having a great time. So highly recommend participation in this program. Next slide, please. We've also been doing a decent job with aquatic invasive species. We have a board member. Her name is Nancy Hanlon, and she is a saint. She initiated this program in Elkhart Lake and has been working hard at it for the last decade at least. So we've got a 4-pronged approach, and this is all thanks to Nancy. I'm not sure what's going on there. She's initiated AIS grants, which have supported our point intercept surveys to keep an eye on the water milfoil and the pondweed. She coordinates all of the chemical treatments in addition to dash harvesting, which is sort of new in the last couple of years. And we also support education and outreach through Clean Boats, Clean Waters, where we hire mostly high school students to keep an eye out on boats at the boat landing and educate folks coming and going on invasive species. So we've seen, based on recent results, that this is working. Our last point intercept survey showed a significant decrease in water milfoil and pondweed in the lake, but we are still seeing an increase in just general productivity in the lake. So we know we're still getting inputs of nutrients from somewhere, and that's something that we're taking a look at.
So a big thing that we do at Elkhart, and you see this logo here, we just absolutely ripped off Keep Tahoe Blue. And we found that it's actually, they're totally good with it. As long as you are not using this for profit, you can do your Keep Blank Blue, and it's a cool, very simple initiative that we've done. And we sell these stickers at all different stores in town. And it's been a very simple, ongoing fundraising tool and mechanism for us. And it's kind of become a slogan. Having said that, we do these parades and we do all this. Obviously, Elkhart's a purple state, but we've had certain people at recent parades and in recent years saying, "Hey, keep Elkhart blue, like, keep that kind of political speak out of here." And it sort of caught us by surprise, where we're trying to keep Elkhart safe, we're trying to keep Elkhart healthy and alive. But we were kind of joking, maybe next year we should do a float, keep Elkhart red, and make it a float of invasive species. But not sure if that would necessarily go over well. But nonetheless, it's really meant to just be a initiative to raise funds, raise awareness, and it's been a good campaign for us. We also make these little keychains that are just like stuff that says "Keep Elkhart Blue" on one side, and then the other side says words like grateful, happiness, be kind. So just like little fundraising trinkets that we do. And Elkhart Lake has really awesome downtown, just like bars, restaurants, and there's this thing called Downtown Night. And we've got maybe like 14, 15 people on the board, and everyone is all volunteer, and everyone some people do the parade, some people do Downtown Night, some people do the buoy installation, some people do the testing. So we kind of have a little bit of a divide and conquer mentality. And our website is really rich with information and data, and frankly, there's a lot on there. But at the same time, it's still, most people are kind of just on social media. So continue to try and just do different things to raise awareness on all things social media and engagement. So one of the most important things that I see ELIA's role as Elkhart Lake Improvement Association is we are the convener. We are the catalyst. We are the one bringing everyone together. And I was sitting at the Osthoff with Sarah, where we have kind of a little like once a quarter meeting about what we're doing. And I remember asking Sarah, I was like, "So who's doing work in Sheboygan already?" And it's just like one organization after another. And I'm like, there's literally like 15 that are all doing something awesome. But it was still, there was this kind of gap where it's like, well, they're all kind of operating in silos, not necessarily working as well together. So this is a little bit of a snapshot, and I'm gonna turn it over to Sarah here now, just to kind of give a context on a few of them, but they're all doing something great. And we look at Elkhart Lake Improvement Association's role to help bring everyone to the table to drive towards some of these projects that we're going to tell you more about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we run into this a lot in a lot of different watersheds throughout the state, right? There are lots of conservation-minded organizations, and a lot of us have the same goal, right? Of to do good things, speak about water quality and the environment, and protect and preserve, right? And it's becoming increasingly, I don't know, it's easier now than it has been in the past, at least in Sheboygan County, to get these organizations to start to work together, which has been great for us. And I'm not going to go through this slide in detail to show what everybody's doing and where, but we just wanted to show it to give an example of, all the relationships that Elkhart Lake Improvement Association has just initiated in the recent couple of years as we start to partner with different organizations to get things done. And recently someone shared that they don't want to see these slides with partner logos anymore. They want to see pictures of people doing things. So we'll move on from this. All right. So Kevin and I are both practitioners in the field, and we're both very passionate about Elkhart Lake. So one of the things that we've been coming together and talking about on a regular basis is water quality. It seems to be, the #1 focus for a lot of people. It's something we can all get beneath, right, and support. So in looking at how we can improve, we know things are going well in the lake. We know we have pretty good water clarity in Elkhart, but we're seeing some increased productivity, some increased algae. How do we prevent this from exponentially, detrimenting the lake? So next slide, please. So one of the things we decided to do in the last 5 years is take a step back. We're looking at traditionally what's going on in the lake. We know we have invasive species. We're looking at the boat launch, the influences of, invasive species coming in and going. We're looking at water quality. We're looking at boating safety, recreational, the value of the lake, all great things. But when we take a step back, we start thinking about what's causing the problems that we're seeing in the lake. Is it runoff? Is it groundwater influence? Are there, other things that we can be considering and making improvements on within the watershed? And as an example, with the board traditionally had always been people that live on the lake, which I think is a trend throughout the state. I think I'm one of 2 people that doesn't live on the lake. So I'm we started the watershed approach by joining the board, but not being we're not even in the watershed, I don't think. We're far outside the watershed. So, but we use the lake, we care about the lake, and we know that what we do in the watershed is going to impact what's happening downstream. So our watershed boundary is shown in red here, which is important, but maybe not as important as the groundwater shed, because we're 70% groundwater fed in Elkhart Lake. And when you look at the yellow contours, you can kind of see how diverse the groundwater shed is compared to the actual surface watershed. So we're looking at, we have this black corridor here is actually Labuddy Creek. Elkhart Lake and most of the village partially drain their groundwater, partially drains to Labuddy Creek. We also drain to the Sheboygan Marsh, which is just west of this red polygon in the lake. This is Crystal Lake, just south of us. We share a watershed with Crystal Lake. So all the water from Crystal drains into Elkhart before it goes to the marsh. So when we think about water moving throughout a watershed, we have to look above and below ground. So that's something that we're looking at as well. And actually, Hay and Associates in 2006 did a really nice hydrology study showing the groundwater influence. Go ahead. Yeah. The question is, how do we know that the lake is 70% groundwater fed? And it's because this lake has been really well studied. The Center for Great Lakes Studies did a trophic study back in the day, I believe, 2001, they completed their research and published a report, and that's where this initial 70% came from. And then following that up, Hay and Associates did a hydrology study looking at inputs and outputs to Elkhart Lake. And there's actually a plethora of reports that date back, I think, to even there's some data that dates back to the 30s and 40s on Elkhart Lake, posted on our website, keepelkhartblue.com. Org. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yep. That's a great question. I don't know. And I have read the study, however, and Elkhart's not the old, so I think it began with a trophic study that was statewide. There were many lakes included in the study. And this was a follow-up to that. And they were looking specifically at, I think zebra mussels were a big focus of that study at this point in time. Other than that, I don't know. Yes, sorry, thank you. The question was, how did they select Elkhart? That I just answered. And this question is, how was the Hay and Associates hydrology study paid for? It was paid for through DNR surface water grants, the program. And then the Lake Association contracted Hay and Associates to write the report. Yep, good questions.
More questions?
So this data comes from a more recent study that we'll get into a little bit later, but this is just showing, it's kind of a nice representation of the surface watershed inputs based on land use. So what we did was model, there's two separate models that were used. One is STEP L, which is a land use model for phosphorus loading. And then the Presto-Willems model is a similar model. I don't want to get too technical on this, but I will note that STEPL overestimates compared to other modeling. So these are big numbers probably compared to reality. And it just shows the phosphorus contribution by land use type. I know that you probably can't see any of the words back there, but the dark blue colors on these circles is agriculture. So the majority of the phosphorus inputs that we're seeing come into the lake, which potentially or most likely are contributing to the uptake in vegetative growth and algae in the lake, probably from agricultural inputs. So that's what that's the takeaway from this slide. You want to keep going?
Not a scientist. I by no means am a scientist or biologist or anything, but when I started to be on the board and kind of starting to think about how can we really make an impact here and looking at all things Elkhart, I mean, you can't ignore that the impact of private land use and agriculture is a significant impact on the entire world, particularly in the Elkhart's watershed. So that kind of really started thinking, all right, well, how can we start to build and figure out a plan to start working with the farming community? So I'll turn that back over to you.
Okay. That's a great transition and something that we decided to do is to take, as we're taking the step back, looking at the watershed, we decided we were going to take on a comprehensive lake management plan, which Elkhart Lake had not had in the past. At the time, we just had this thought of, we'll put together a watershed plan, no big deal, right? And and as we learned more, we learned, what it could look like and all the data that actually existed for Elkhart Lake, and we decided to hire a consultant to put together a comprehensive lake management plan that was reviewed and reviewed and vetted by DNR. So, following this general planning framework, which I think a lot of people have seen in the past, this is also kind of how the 9 key element planning process works. You start by building these partnerships. So we have a lot of great partnerships. How do we make them better? How do we connect with the farmers in the watershed? We have 2 farmers within the surface watershed of Elkhart Lake, just 2. And so how do you communicate with these folks without targeting them and saying, hey, we did this modeling and it's your fault, right? We don't want to have that conversation. We want to say, we know that you're doing good things and that you're great stewards of the land. How can we how can we help you share that story? So we've just started having conversations with folks in the community who have contacts with the farmers, and we have a meeting set up where we're just going to sit and have breakfast and have the conversation. But that's just an example. We have a golf course in the watershed. We're also initiating conversations with them. So it really kind of goes across land uses. Education and outreach. We're trying to expand our education and outreach program from just having one annual meeting every year and a booth at Downtown Night, which is our August community celebration. So we're looking at ways to better educate the public on what we're doing and to also glean information from them. So we're hosting a watershed partner, what would we call it?
Roundtable type thing.
Yeah, a roundtable thing. Kevin's going to get into that in a little bit this fall. So different things there. Funding planning is also important so that we can get some projects on the ground and get to work.
Yeah, and just giving my 2 cents on the slide, it's again, partnerships. That's one of the most important things I look at, and also kind of the education part. Maybe you saw me yesterday, the last 2 days, even leading up to this. I love the gift of gab. I love podcasting. I had Sarah on the podcast leading up to this, but even in the past 2 days, did 20 podcasts with the artists and a lot of the student researchers. And I always ask to come to these shows. The show's great, but what are you all going to do different on Monday? My mom used to jokingly call me Trade Show Kevin because I am going to a lot of these shows. But it's true. What are you going to do different on Monday? Are you going to do anything different that's going to hopefully make you more productive, more efficient, better at what you're doing day to day? I sure hope so. But that's a big thing about digital mediums, podcasting, roundtables, webinars. you shouldn't have to come to Stevens Point to be able to acquire this knowledge, and it's awesome that we're virtual too. But that's where we're starting to do more mixed media, podcast, roundtables, short form clips, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, all the different things, and just meeting people where they're at is really important. And just because you like one platform and that's what you use and you understand, there's a big need to be able to understand the 13 different platforms that people communicate in modern day. But then really the other big thing here is, as Sarah mentioned, we got a comprehensive lake management program, and this is a awesome report. It's like only 600 pages long, something like that. And it's like, if you have nothing to do for the next month, you can sit down and read it. It's an awesome report. But it's like only like nerds are going to actually read it. And only people that have like, that really love this stuff. Like Sarah and I both read it. Great. But I kind of looked at this report. I'm like, it's just going to sit there and collect us. Granted, it's a great report because we can use it for a decade to start getting grants and going after additional grants, which is awesome. But I was struggling with this, being like, how can we take this 300, 600 page report and turn it into something that is a bit more tangible, a bit more bite-sized, something that we can actually like do something with and communicate to the community, show that we are actually doing stuff, as well as being able to drive that towards holistic solutions and finding ways to get more funds to do more projects. Anything else on this plan you want to touch on?
No, you nailed it.
Yeah. So we just kind of said, you know what, let's put a stake in the ground and we're going to do this 10-year watershed initiative plan. So it's the whole goal of it is a healthy, resilient watershed that sustains a clean, healthy Elkhart Lake for future generations, with the ultimate goal of to safeguard Elkhart Lake and improve its water quality, protecting it from critical threats. I just doing some other photos, and there's a little nice little sunfish that caught earlier last year, and just again photos of Elkhart blessed, because as much as I love Elkhart, Sarah loves Elkhart, we want our family to continue to be able to have access to it and allow everyone in the great state of Wisconsin to continue to benefit from the beauty that is Elkhart Lake. So we thought, let's take this plan and put it in action, make it a little bit more actionable, and just start figuring out what we can do with this plan. I'm going to go to this one first. So we sort of started to say, all right, let's create like a 10-year timeline. First 2 years, we started last year, all sorts of data collection. So we started doing, we'll go into this more in a bit, but doing different things to collect surface water samples, sediment sampling, doing different dissolved oxygen testing, and just a lot of like deep into planning mode. So right now we're deep into, frankly, wanting to learn from all of you of what projects are we missing? What types of other initiatives should we consider? And then frankly, you've heard that phrase, crawl, walk, run, sprint. We're kind of in the jog to run phase right now already. There's always been already some good momentum, which we're very grateful for. But having said that, we're really hoping to continue to ramp up both our just a range of small, medium, and large initiatives. So just to kind of now take a step back and maybe I'll turn it over to Sarah here now. We know while a lot of things are going great, we also know that we are not immune from all the different things and challenges that all the lakes in Wisconsin face for some reason or another.
So some of the risks I think that were identified in the plan and by the board recently that we'll have to look forward to in the future include the surface water runoff. We know that phosphorus is a big contributing factor. Trying to pull some of that out of the watershed, prevent it from running into the lake, right? Phosphorus is great if we have it in the upland, but if we flush it into the lake, we're looking at, I don't know, what is it, 5 pounds of phosphorus? Or I'm sorry, 1 pound of phosphorus for 500 pounds create 500 pounds of productivity in a water body or something. Don't quote me on that. But so we want to look at that. We want to look at legacy phosphorus, both in the lake and in the gullies within the subwatershed surrounding the lake. Algae and invasive species, obviously the result. It's the result of the phosphorus coming into the lake. We want to continue to mitigate that. Climate change, warmer, wetter climates, something to think about. How do we create more resilient landscapes in our lake watersheds, lake sheds? We also look at human impacts and safety. A lot of our membership are mostly concerned with recreation and safety around the lake. So also a priority. And how do we preserve what we've got going? So I just want to highlight some of the projects that we do have going. Kevin mentioned that we're jogging/running. We did initiate a couple of grant applications as soon as we finished the comprehensive lake management plan. These include, I mean, obviously we're still water quality monitoring, still doing AIS management. We're working, Sheboygan County is a big partner. They manage the boat landing in Elkhart Lake. And they just recently put in a boat wash station and are continuing to do updates at the ramp itself. There's a lot of power loading happening. So it's getting degraded. Clean boats, clean waters. But right now we have an active prairie restoration going on. I'll touch on that in just a minute. And then we're looking at one of the major contributing gully areas or subwatersheds on the lake is in the southwest corner. You can see here's our prairie restoration that actually drains directly to this gully area where there has been a lot of incision. If you look at the 1938 aerial photographs of Elkhart Lake, that gully doesn't exist. So it's been incising over time. And where does all that sediment end up? It's in the lake. So we've got a wetland that also helped kind of capture a lot of the sediment as it ran downstream, and we're proposing to dig that out, take care of some of that sediment and create a nicer wetland, so wetland restoration project. We're also evaluating the sediments in the lake. So we're taking some sediment cores this summer, another grant project, and we'll be evaluating the internal loading of phosphorus, which we suspect is a big contributor in the lake. And shoreline restoration projects, we're trying to initiate some through the Healthy Lakes program, another great DNR and Wisconsin Lakes supported project. So we've got a lot on our plate right now. Yes. So here, the prairie restoration, we just wanted to highlight because this is a neat project because it highlights the partnerships in the watershed. We have a landowner who purchased a 40-acre parcel of farmland, all soybean and corn production over the years, and they wanted to convert it to prairie. So they built a new home, and then we've been working with them to sort of phase the prairie installation the last couple of years, and it all sort of happened together. Elia said, hey, we'd really like to do some projects, and we've identified your parcel. Just the conversion of ag land to prairie in itself will result in a 60% phosphorus reduction within this sub-watershed. So that's significant, that small project. And so we're able to fund part of this project through our surface water grants, which is a huge benefit to the landowner. Pheasants Forever helped us get the seed for the prairie restoration, so they're a partner. NRCS's EQIP program is providing additional incentives to the landowner to put in prairie. So we're able to create a really high quality prairie on this property that's well managed and will be monitored and managed for 2 years using partially grant funding. So kind of a neat project. Also, I want to mention that Glacial Lakes Conservancy owns a preserve directly adjacent to this property. So you can see the hill, which is indicated on this topographic map by lots of contours, dense contours, that is called Grasshopper Hill, and it's a preserve, and the south side of that preserve also has prairie established. So it's nice when you can create habitat projects on adjacent properties. What's next? Oh yeah.
So the thing I'm most excited about is how we're working to expand stakeholder watershed engagement with all the farmers. And actually was here last year when Sarah had some conversation, and someone mentioned, like, if you're trying to talk to farmers, just bring them on your pontoon boat and give them some brats. And so we're like, you know what, maybe we should do that. So just thinking beer, brats, cheese, and soil, like nothing more Wisconsin than that. So we have some people on our board who have helped broker some of the relationships with the farmers. And, we're Johnsonville's right in town, Sargento's right in town, New Glarus, it's different beer providers. So we're looking to kind of just, not saying it's like a Trojan horse, but we want to come with some gifts and come with some good grace and just talk about soil, all these different soil practices, and see the Fox Valley and Green Lake all doing very simple things, from the no-till farming to the crop cover to strategic timing of when you place your manure, smart wetlands. So we're just trying to bring people together, eat some brats, eat some cheese, drink some beer, and talk soil. So this is something that, frankly, I've never been more excited about any of the things I'm working on besides this. So I'm fired up for that. And if you all, I guess almost a time for maybe kind of open up kind of questions like, has anyone else done stuff like this in terms of bringing roundtables together, having opportunities? And what's been maybe some of your experience, and what any recommendations?
I'm from Lake Wissota in Chippewa County, and we initiated with our local farmers, a group, land to lakes. And we spend a half a day on the land with the farmer. They show off what they've been doing, no-till, crop rotation, on and on, what they've done to their manure pits, et cetera, all that kind of fun stuff. And then we spend the other half on the lake, and we take a bunch of pontoons. We show off our Healthy Lakes programs that we have done and talk about other things that we have going. And then we all get together at a local Wisconsin Farmers Union camp called Camp Kenwood on the lake. And we had all food that was purchased or made by the farmers and from one farm. It was all soybean related. So it was a fun day, and we're going to continue that. Got plans for this year also.
Barbara, I love it. I'm gonna reach out to you and see how we can control copy that at Elkhart. Yep.
I'm with Foxwolf Watershed Alliance, so we work in the Fox Valley area. We do 2 farmer roundtables in the lower and the upper, and we get over 100 farmers at each for the day, just talking about conservation, bringing up ideas. And we do it not as a session where people are talking at somebody. It's all roundtables topics. So a lot of engagement.
It's been effective and helpful.
It's been very helpful. We've done it for 3 years, I think. And each year it's over 100, and new farmers are brought in every year.
Great feedback. Thank you so much. So we'll touch on now some of the future projects, and Sarah, I'll let you take this one.
Okay. I think we mentioned a lot of these already, so I won't dig in too deeply in that. One of the things that we're trying to do with all the water quality data that we've collected is put together some sort of a useful dashboard, something in English instead of a spreadsheet with lots of information that we can share with our stakeholders. So that's another project that I hadn't mentioned earlier. Not currently funded or moving forward, but we're working on different connections and options for that. And I think that'll drive additional projects moving forward. I think the septic system conversation is something that a lot of lakes are having. We'd also have that issue where, predominantly glacial till surrounding Elkhart Lake, so it's well drained, and any leaks in those septic systems is likely having an impact on the lake. So, but that's a touchy one. So that's on the list, but maybe further down. The agricultural practices, of course, shoreline practices we're looking at. So these are sort of future projects on the radar, which may or may not pop up in the next 10 years, but we hope that they will.
So as you can see, I got this shirt on that says enhanced, or I love H2O, but I also love data. And my thinking was, hey, as we have some money in the bank, there's some grants we can go get. But in order to do this, we need data that's unemotional, fact-based. That's just, these are the phosphorus levels, these are the chlorophyll levels. This is what's going on. So I took a very proactive approach and found a range of different water quality testing companies that could help us accomplish this mission, in addition to the Citizen Lake program that we're already doing. So one that has been a huge value add for Elkhart was traditional sampling process before was you just get a big box with a bunch of jars and vials, and it was just something that took a lot of time for our volunteers. And now this is something we're working with a company called Simple Lab. We click a few buttons, kits show up at our door. They're all pre-labeled, shipping both ways. We fill it up, tests are just kind of like we normally do, and then send it to one of the network of labs, and then we get digital data reports in return. And then this just allows us to kind of grow and standardize our testing initiative. One big thing I'm pushing for this year is now being able to take all the different data and put it onto maps and show at these different spots, at these different times, these are the trends. So we want to be able to do very basic trend analysis over place and time to be able to communicate to the city of Elkhart and the citizens of Elkhart of this is what's happening and this is what you should be aware of. And we also want to use that data to be able to go after more grants and show that these are some baselines. And if we do these micro surface water projects in the watershed, from smart wetlands to shoreline buffers to farm tile restorations, all these things, it will indeed make an impact and move the needle. Some other things, we bought this sensor last year from in-situ. Elkhart, it's 120-ish feet deep, and we have this deep hole. And so we were able to get this very simple DO meter, and it's all Bluetooth connected, and just been a really easy, great tool for us to use and reuse. And it doesn't require any crazy calibration. It's just been a very useful tool that allows us to measure the DO at all the different depths throughout the lake. And we do this at the same time when we're doing our surface water sampling. This was the new one last year that we started, kind of still tinkering with it, and I would love any feedback, but using different buoys, whether they're kind of just like mounted by an anchor or mounted at a pier. I've seen a bunch of different buoys that are kind of real-time data creation. This was a startup that we're starting to work with and explore about just kind of this idea of getting a pulse on the lake and understanding what's going on. This is still very much kind of in skunk works for us, but curious, does anybody use any real-time buoys or anytime real data sensors? Anyone in the room doing anything with that? Is that something that anyone's interested in? See a couple hands, couple nods. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna figure out. I'm gonna try a couple of the buoys this summer and just trying to figure it out. So I'll continue to share those feedback, because it'd be nice. Ideally, we'd mention like what are the useful, like when you said, when I showed this to you, it was like DO. There's a range of tools or range of analysts that would be helpful. I forget exactly which ones they were.
I think it's specific to each lake, right? So we would be looking at dissolved oxygen is particularly of interest to us because we're looking at release sediment, phosphorus release from the bottom sediments. So we needed the deep data in addition to having superficial data, right? Temperature is an interesting one because that drives productivity. So anything that drives productivity in the lake would be important to understand on a real-time basis. pH is another one that we'd be looking at, but I think this sensor had, every option in the book, except it's not measuring nutrient levels, right?
So we're still tinkering this buoy in particular. We're exploring a new one this summer. So more to follow on that. This is another thing that we're exploring. This is kind of another tool in the tool shed. So we haven't done it yet. We're going to look at some stuff this summer, but it's a technology using DNA and RNA analysis to create baselines of population assessment. So if we were looking at what's the population of zebra mussels, what's the population of bluegills or walleye, this is a technology that allows us to create quantitative baselines using RNA analysis. So RNA is only alive, the half-life is about 5 to 12 minutes. So we have to pump 50 gallons of water through that filter, preserve it, clip it up, send it to the lab, and that allows us to know not only is a species alive or dead, but actually what it's doing. So we're still kind of exploring what might be best with this technology, but it's very good for small cryptic species like salamanders or mussels for native or invasive. So something we're still exploring. I know that it's a unique kind of tool. Doesn't make sense for every lake, but if you're spending $500,000 or $100,000 on a project, understanding baselines is something that we're really, really thinking about. Again, just kind of thinking about other technologies. I've reached out and talking with this company called Upstream Tech. They use low Earth and LEO and GEO satellites. And just with satellites becoming more available and accessible, it's a technology that is able to take photos and have different overlays of different kind of infrared, different types of overlays, and kind of give you indications of moisture levels, of different densities. And I'm still kind of playing in it with it myself, but I've talked to the CEO, great guy, and ultimately has agreed to give us sort of some free snapshots. So starting this summer, we're just going to kind of get some satellite snapshots and still kind of figuring out how we can use that. But we think it's going to be another tool that we can use to help communicate who, what, when, where, why, keep Elkhart blue. So we've been talking for a bit, and actually I've appreciated the back and forth, but we really wanted to, I guess it's almost amazing to think that Sarah and I could talk for almost an hour, and we got about, there are 12 minutes left, which is wonderful. But would love to know sort of what else are we missing? I have some prompting questions here of who else in Wisconsin is doing similar work, who else is doing something that we could replicate from, and how else is anyone taking data and using that to drive projects, or how could we help you? So would love, this is kind of an open talk shop forum now with this 12 minutes left, and would welcome any questions. Yeah, one sec. Yeah, just the virtual.
Yeah, hi. I work over on Lake Redstone in Sauk County, and we're going to try something a little different than we have done in the past with communicating with groups of people. In this case, landowners that own property on the lake. And it seems as if you take the shoreline work that's been done, you think of all the things being done on the watershed, where you have producer co-ops meeting with boards like ours and things like that. The one thing that we haven't done a very good job on is we don't have the farmer communicating that much with the landowner. So we're going to try something that may not work, and maybe you'll notice it right away, but we're getting some great sound on the street from this idea. And it's only about a 2-week-old idea. It's going to happen in July. But we're going to take and invite our entire list of lake owners on our Protection District website and invite them for a field day on a very, very nice, successful farm, right very close to our watershed, to the point where you can see the lake from this particular farm. And they have all the right habits when it comes to rotational grazing, when it comes to all the things they do on that farm is absolutely benchmark compared to what most farms do. And so, and like so many people have said in this convention, so many times you'll feel like the landowners are always ripping on the farmer. It's the farmer's fault, making everything's going wrong. And we have our lake is all right above us. I mean, we've got a watershed that starts right at our street, and it's 200 feet in the air right out of the chute. So we got 15 bays in the lake, and then when you get a major rain event, and you got water coming in from 15 different spots through gullies into the lake. And so, and many of them coming through homeowners' property. So it's not hard to blame somebody else for your problems. And that's what we're trying to figure out. We think that if we can get everybody on for a nice, fun field day, which would include stopping at about 6 or 7 locations along the farm, walking around, a walking tour, and then have a nice little dinner afterwards, maybe as a fish fry put on by our fishing club, something like that, and get into a win-win situation with that crowd, where they have an appreciation for the landowner and the landowner has an appreciation for the farmer. And they both see that they both are interested in water quality. It's not just the landowner. I don't think a landowner appreciates the fact that most farmers are very interested in water quality, not for the lake, for their soil. So the point is, we'll see how it goes. I'm telling you something that hasn't even been, we're going to put our first planning session together on this on Monday. So we'll see how it goes, but next year, maybe I'll report back if this was a good idea or not.
I mean, us too. Yeah. I mean, we're building, fixing, flying, breaking, and redoing that whole plane analogy too. So I'd love to just connect and understand how that's going, because frankly, maybe we do a workshop next year in terms of purely just on stakeholder engagement. Again, I know Fox Valley and Green Lake is already doing some great stuff, but for all lakes, different shapes and sizes, that's awesome work, Patrick. Thank you for the comment. Again, open talk short, open round robin here. Thank you, Jim.
Just kind of piggybacking off the communication side of things and getting people engaged. Our area is large. We're Green Bay down to Fond du Lac. It's a huge area we're dealing with. I actually come from the Chamber of Commerce world. So I come from business project management before I've gotten into conservation. So one of the programs we've started actually is engaging businesses. We have business memberships. We're getting them involved too. The whole idea behind that is it's lake owners, it's agriculture, but everybody benefits from water. So using connections and just talking to people, businesses love it too. So it's just one of those other avenues to take a look at for getting people on your side and even funding. So just some thoughts.
You, Jim. I still think we got a couple more minutes. Stephanie, on the volunteered you with a question or comment here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Stephanie Prowitz with the Green Lake Association. I think we're always trying to come up with new ways to improve. Something that we did a while ago that quite frankly we've dropped off doing is just making sure that, there's this like generational legacy on the lake, but also we're seeing a lot of new people come to our lake. And so you have to kind of like keep reintroducing yourself to the community. Boy, and I'm trying to remember the name of the subscription, but we, gosh, I'm sorry that I'm failing at the name of it, but when someone moves into our area, we get their contact information. So when someone moves into the lake, we get pinged that someone new has moved, and then we reintroduce ourselves to them as a way to say, we're the Green Lake Association, this is what we're working on. And it's a way for us to kind of keep our database current, but certainly have done a lot of work in the watershed. The gentleman who spoke first, we have a field day where we have shoreline owners and farmers, and we found it to be really wonderful. This year was new. We had it on more of a like an organic CSA farm. Usually it's on a more conventional farm, but we were really happy to use all food from the farm for lunch, which was an important investment. We felt like kind of putting our money where our mouth is, wanting to support those practices. So that's been really, really impactful. So gosh, I more of just commentary, I suppose, than questions, but really it's going to take all of us. And I love the good work that you guys are doing in Elkhart.
Thank you very much. We got a audio question or question from the audience, virtual audience.
Douglas would like to know, what does the lake pulse buoy measure?
Sarah, you mentioned earlier, it was dissolved oxygen, pH. It's like 5. I mean, I brought it to the game, but
Yeah, right?
yeah.
It was definitely pH, dissolved oxygen, temperature, conductivity, and there may have been another one.
Sorry,
I
that's
don't
why
recall.
I have a science friend. with Sarah.
Yeah.
All right, all the way in the back. 1 second. Yeah, and for listening virtual, we are going to explore other buoys this summer, so would love to connect on that. Yeah, get my steps in.
At the very beginning of your presentation, you talked about that you had data that you might have been looking at from the Great Lakes Water Institute and their work on zebra and quagga mussels and those kinds of things. Well, some of the people that did a lot of that initial work were like a person named Russell Kuehl and Carmen Aguilar, and maybe you've run into them. But if you wanted to look at your data over time that you're working with, you could actually call them up at the Great Lakes Water Institute. They have all this beautiful data and would love to talk to you, I'm sure. So I just recommend them to you.
And there's quite a bit of resources. I think we can all agree that we aren't leveraging to full ability. So that's a good lesson there. One second. I'm getting my steps in today. It's wonderful.
No, it's really great that you brought that up because we had a partner meeting last week, and one of our partners has a contact at the Great Lakes Water Institute, and she's actually going to connect us with Russell. And we're going to try to work with potentially a grad student or someone to try to compile our data and see what might transpire from that. So thank you.
We've got 3 more minutes, so we're going to go to the end here, maybe. But any other questions, comments, anything else that I guess I don't have to go to the end, but I just want to say thank you very much. I realize we maybe might have the domain keepelkhartblue.com, but I actually, shame on me, it's definitely keepelkhartblue.org. But nothing would make us happier than finding a way to share what we're doing, learn from you, and Sarah, just appreciate, I mean, first, give a round of applause for Sarah Wingju. She's just been amazing organizing all this. Thank you, Sarah. and to the entire team. Yeah, seriously, any way that we can connect, collaborate with all of you, we would love to do it. And please come visit Elkhart Lake. And I look forward to connecting with all of you more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin and Sarah, for that excellent presentation. Now, if you'd care to kind of maneuver yourself over to the Northwoods room for lunch and our afternoon presentation.